Breaking: Jimmy Butler's final injury status for Heat-Grizzlies game. Jimmy Butler has been upgraded to available for Monday's game between the Miami Heat and Memphis Grizzlies. On Monday night, the Miami Heat are in Tennessee to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. For the game, they will have their best player available, as Jimmy Butler has been upgraded to available. Butler had missed 7 games in a row before returning on Friday night against the Boston Celtics. He led the Heat to a 120-116 win overtime on the road in Massachusetts. The 6-time NBA All-Star finished with 25 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal and 1 block. Late in overtime, he nailed a shot with 9.4 seconds left to seal the victory for the Heat. He is in his 4th season with the organization after signing with them in the summer of 2019. They have been one of the premier teams in the league over that time period and have made the Eastern Conference Finals in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Butler is averaging 21.2 points, 7.2 rebounds, 5.9 assists and 1.7 steals per contest in 14 games this season. However, the Heat are off to a slow start with an 11-12 record in their first 23 games. They are the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference and 7.5 games behind the Celtics, who are in first. As for the Grizzlies, they come into the night tied with the Denver Nuggets for the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. They are 14-9 in their first 23 games. At home, the Grizzlies are 8-2, while the Heat have struggled on the road with a 3-8 record. Ask IRA, is Heat relying on peak Jimmy Butler during the regular season asking too much? Question: what kind of team are we? Without Jimmy Butler we lose. With Jimmy we can beat anybody. Roland: Exactly. Sort of like every team in the NBA with or without their star. But there also have been plenty of games with Jimmy Butler this season when the Heat hardly have excelled. So what you really are talking about is peak Jimmy, which does not show up nearly as often during the regular season as during the playoffs. And that will make these upcoming games very curious. Does Jimmy deem the Heat's current situation in the standings as dire enough to evoke his maximum desire? Or at 33, is Jimmy more intent on pacing himself? Perhaps we will see more next week when the Heat have a back-to-back in Oklahoma City and Houston. Play just one? Play both? Because had he played both ends of this week's back-to-back, there may not have been that loss to the Pistons. Question smart: give Kyle Lowry a game off and see if they can win without him and his contract. Alexi: sure, let's just jump from point A to point Z, but the real reason the Heat gave Kyle Lowry off on Thursday night was to see if they could win without him. No. At 36, there was no way that Kyle should have been leading the Heat in minutes and been 5th in the NBA minutes. But if this was, in your view, some type of open tryout to see if they could win without Kyle, it would not have come in a game when Gabe Vincent also was sidelined. Plus, for all those so willing to move off of Kyle, the reality is that he was brought aboard at Jimmy Butler's request. So attempting to reconstruct the roster without Kyle also would have an impact with Jimmy. And we've seen what displeased Jimmy Butler can look like. Question: hi, Ira. When you talk about blowing this team up, why do you mention Tyler Herro? I would build on Tyler and Bam Adebayo and get rid of Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and anyone else on this team. They are both young with a lot of potential. What do you think? Tony, Port St. Lucie. First, I am in no way advocating for blowing up or anything close. Geez, it's still early December. But because I have constantly been asked about how a rebuild could be attempted, I've merely pointed out the most attractive assets. And that would be Tyler Herro's contract, once he again becomes trade eligible in July, as well as future first-round picks. As the Heat have said, Jimmy Butler is not for everybody. And at 36, the market for Kyle Lowry and his contract is not exactly robust. So if you want to think big, and I'm not saying the Heat are thinking in such a way, then you have to consider big possibilities.